say hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the ATD San Diego chapter Get Good with Articulate Storyline Workshop. I'm John Morley. I'm an instructional designer, author of the book Script Writing for High Impact Videos, and an external consultant. If I can be of help to you on a project, I am looking for my email address right now. My email address is in the chat window. Now, that's me. Who are you? Please take a moment to write your name in the chat window along with where you're calling in from. And if you would like to network with other participants, adding your email address would make that a whole lot easier. And be advised that a click along is coming up. So if you want to join in, have Storyline fired up and ready. No one knows everything about Storyline, especially me. So this is our chance to talk shop and share what we do know. Toward that end, to talk shop and share what we do know, we are very fortunate to have with us this evening Kandice Kidd. Kandice is an e-learning manager for the American Epilepsy Society, which is located in Chicago. She must be smart because she worked in the higher education sector for 8 years. And she also oversaw the project management for a large online learning catalog. She has a master's and MA from Western Illinois University, and she has recently earned an instructional design certificate through the University of California here in Irvine. And most importantly, tomorrow is her birthday. So happy birthday to Kandice. Okay, would you like to say hello, Kandice?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm really excited to do this for the first time. So hopefully I'll share some things that will be of use to you.
Okay, we're very happy to have you. I'll be talking about quizzes tonight. I have never been good at taking quizzes myself. Let me share the screen here again, because I tend to proofread quizzes when I'm taking them. For instance, say I'm looking at a quiz on proper etiquette in the out in the great outdoors, and the correct answer to a question is only walk on a designated trail. Well, I will look at this and think, well, do they really mean walk only on a designated trail? Because as it's written, it tells you that if you happen to be on a designated trail, you shouldn't tap dance, you shouldn't have sex, you should only walk. You can walk anywhere you want, but if you happen to be on a designated trail, you have to walk. So I would think this is obviously a trick question. They're trying to trip me up with grammar. So this is wrong and I will get the quiz wrong. So I basically overthink things. So this evening I will try not to overthink and try not to be a grammar Nazi. Okay, I'm going to do the click along first, and let's just jump right into it. Start by going up in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, go to the file menu, click new, and let's get started. Okay, double click the slide to get started. And now we can go up to the home ribbon, go to new slide, and see down here we have graded questions. So click graded questions and look at all these options we have. So let's start with a multiple choice question here. Double click that. You can click and select it and then click insert. And look what happens over here. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see two tabs. The tab that's showing now lets you enter information, and the other tab shows what the slide will actually look like. So let's put in a question here. Does anybody know what the lorem Easter egg does in Storyline? Or it actually works in a number of different programs.
Puts in dummy text.
Pardon?
It puts in dummy text for you.
Yeah, exactly. And how do we do that? We click equal and then lorem, L-O-R-E-M, open parentheses, type in the number of paragraphs you would like, close the parentheses, hit enter, and look at that. We have a question, a ready-made placeholder for a question. So I'll just copy the first couple words there to put in answers, Control C to copy. And then down here, we'll just put in dummy text here, Control V to paste. Click there, Control V to paste, Control V to paste. And I'll just type this one here, this one. And depending on which of these little circles that you click, that will be the correct answer. Go back over here and we'll see this is what the slide will look like. Now, by doing that, going up into the upper left-hand corner here, you can see all of these wonderful things that allow you to control what's going on here. Let me see if this will work. Okay, I'm not able to. In the upper left, we have feedback. We can select between feedback by the question or by choice here. So if you want a different response depending on the choice, you can select that and look what happens down here. For every optional answer, you're able to type in a different response. So you're able to take advantage of creating this teachable moment by giving feedback that's appropriate. And then if we go over to the slide view here, look what happens down here with the slide layers. You have a whole bunch of different slide layers that the system has created for you. Very generous system here. It creates all these things. So this is misspelled response 3, response 2, response 1. And let's see what this looks like. Go to preview this slide. Wait a moment while it creates itself. Now, if we select a wrong answer and click submit, it gives us the appropriate feedback, taking advantage of this teachable moment for the first wrong answer. Let's try it again. Oh, I forgot to talk about a very important thing up here. Design. We have answers. The results slide I'll get to in a little bit. We can score by the question, or the different choices can have different values. And down here in attempts, this allows you to be generous with the number of attempts the learner can have. So we'll click 3 here. Now let's see what happens if we preview this particular slide. Okay, we'll get a wrong answer. Gives us some feedback. Now we'll get another wrong answer here. Gives us some feedback. And now we'll get the correct one. And we are not working here. Something is not operating. Let's see. Oh, we need a message there. Okay. We'll put a message in. It can be so picky. Now let's see what happens if we click that, and this gives us the message to reassure. This is an opportunity to take advantage of that teachable moment and add some more information to the learner. Let's see now. Get back to there. We've covered all these things. Now, if you click a button, look what happens up here. You get a whole new design thing. Well, the design is what we just did, but now we have a format. And look at all this wonderful stuff here. You can change what the button looks like. Let's go down and select this button. So change that, just hours of fun changing things. You can put borders on it. You can add colors and just have a lot of fun changing things around here. Any questions on putting together a multiple choice question? Is this making sense so far? Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we have done that, let's do something very exciting here, which is go up to upper left-hand corner, new slide, back down to graded questions, select that, and now we'll do a multiple response question. Insert slide, and again, let's do a equal lorem, open parenthetical, close parenthetical, and then we will copy and paste just a couple words here, Control C, and then enter them down here. That one, and let's say this one, and this one. And the correct answers, you would simply go on, notice these are squares now rather than radio buttons. So just put a question, a check mark in the questions you want to be correct. Now, notice down here in feedback and over here in slide view, you have, it automatically creates these layers for you, correct and incorrect. And look what happens if you go up here and select more than one attempt. You now have it automatic, it figures this out for you and creates a try again layer for you automatically. Let's get back to this. And that when you're in the form view, it also shows what the text can be. And this can be entered, you can enter this text here, or you can also enter it over here. It's very forgiving in that matter. Now, let's see now. Let's give this a try, and you also have the same options here to have fun with colors. Now it's check marks that pop up here rather than radio buttons. Click home, click preview, click this slide, and let's see what happens. Click that, submit. It tells me to try again, so let's get it, see if we get the right ones, and that gives us the correct. Okay, let's move along. Close the preview, and now let's duplicate this in the panel here on the left panel. We'll click the bottom one, right click, click duplicate. So we have a total of 3 slides. And now we're going for a result. We want to show the learner how they did on the quiz. So we go up to new slide, the home ribbon, new slide, go down to second from the bottom, results. Click that, and we have a number of options. We want the graded results. Click that, and look at this. The system figures a lot of things out for you. Here you are able to, if you want to deselect some of these in terms of what is included in the grade, you're able to do that here, and you're able to set what the percentage is for passing or failing. So click that, and let's preview this, see what it looks like. So as you can see, Storyline does a lot of stuff under the hood automatically for you. That is good in most cases, but I'll show you in just a moment that you can really get tangled up in this if you try to mess with this stuff, if you try to change things. So we'll get that one right. We'll get this one right, this one and this one. And then we'll get this one and this one correct. And now look at this. It gives you the information you would typically want on your results slide to let the learner know how they did. And it even by default lets the learner review the quiz so they can go back and take a look at what they did. Had I gotten one of these incorrect, it would show both what the learner responded plus what the correct answer was. Now let's take a look at something else here. This is important to know about. Up here in the ribbons, click View. We're clicking the View menu. Now we're going over here to Feedback Master. Well, let me show you the slide master first. Should have done this earlier. You'll see in the layouts that are created automatically for you, there are two. This one says layout question, used by 3 slides, of course, and then here's another one. Do not delete these because there is a lot of stuff under the hood here, and you are going to cause yourself a lot of problems if you delete these. So make sure that you keep these when you're tidying up your layouts. But even more important, I'm clicking View again, going to the Feedback Masters, and you'll see it gives you 2 different types of masters. This, which I think is particularly ugly, and then you also get this version, and you can pick and choose whichever ones that you find most attractive. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on here. This says button, so the system automatically changes what you see on the button, what the learner sees on the button, to be either continue or try again. And now it lies. This says feedback title, right? This is not the title. This is the question itself. Take a look. This is, let's see, go to, says question title, it lies. That is actually the question itself. And look what happens down here in the menu. It puts, rather than a title that makes any sense, it puts the actual question. I'll copy that and put it up here, and you'll see it's just the entire question is in there. So what I end up doing is manually going in here and putting my own name that makes sense for the questions. Does anybody else run into that situation? Okay, let's go back view and take a look at the feedback master. So feel free to change the aesthetics of this. You can give it a nice color, or you can put images in here. Feel free to add objects. Just do not mess with the button or the text objects here. Yeah, any questions on what we've hit so far?
No, I just want to let you know, John, that we have 5 minutes left.
Okay, well, let me go real quick through a couple examples here. This is training on computer code. This is for people who need to understand what that is. So the way they learn that is if they click one of these bubbles explaining what it is, it highlights what they're seeing here. So the quiz looks like this. They are required to move the descriptions up here to the various components in the string of text, a string of code. And then this tells them whether or not they have that correct. Let's take a look at the under the hood here. And what we have is a whole bunch of hotspots here. So the learner moves these these shapes, these text bubbles into the hotspots here. Now let's take a look at another one. This is what the form looks like. You have the targets over here and what goes into them over here. Let's see. Go here. Now here's something where we have to mix and match what is being done and what the effect is. We'll submit that once, twice. Oh, the learner might be getting a little frustrated by now, so we have a option to go back and review what was in the content, and the little information pops up here letting them know once they read this, if they hit previous, it takes them right back to the question, and now they can answer that correctly. Going into back under the hood, let's take a look at that. This looks a little different this time because now you actually see this is the, yeah, I showed that to you already. Let me show you this next one real quick. Like, go to the next. Now, after the learner does a lot of things, they need to click a button in order to clear the system. So we have several different options here for them to click. Click again, and if they click the correct one, that is correct. And now, whoops, we don't want to say goodnight yet. Now under the hood, this one, you actually pull up the image here and are able to add hotspots by clicking that. You get to this one by, let's see, where are we getting here? I need to go back to a slide, go back to the home, and go to a graded question. And here is the hotspot. Click that, and that takes you to a new slide, and you're able to put the image in there over which you can add the hotspots and put that together. Any questions on what we've been over before I hand it over to Candice? Okay, very good. I will stop sharing.
I do have just one thing.
Yeah.
Since I work for the state, I have to be cognizant of Section 508 and WCAG rules, and just to let the group know that drag and drop interactions or test questions aren't accessible under those rules. And so if you have to check the 508 or WCAG box and around accessibility, then you'll have to avoid the drag and drops where you're dragging an object onto something.
Good point. Yeah, I want to do a workshop on accessibility. Can you suggest somebody who would be a good guest presenter for that?
I do one for the state or for my group. I could probably throw something together, a short version of it, for you if you'd like later on.
I'll give you the whole darn hour.
Okay. Well, my session is usually 8 hours because I spend it teaching everything. But I can do it in an hour.
Okay, let me follow up after the tomorrow and let Candice get going here. Okay.
Sounds
All
good.
right, Candice, you are on.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking forward to that, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to learn more about accessibility. So I'm glad that you're considering or will do that.
Me too. That would be great.
I'm going to move you all over for a second over here. So you'll see me looking here when I'm ready to look at you all. So,
Okay.
what I want to do is, sorry about that. I want to share with you not only getting good with Storyline, but from my standpoint, Storyline and Rise. And what I want to do is really talk through it from the practical standpoint. I'm talking about us actual in the trenches instructional and e-learning designers. We know that Articulate has their own reasons and they can talk about why to use Rise and when to use Storyline, et cetera. But I would like to talk from my own experience and hear from those of you who actually use both tools or one tool or the other. And so as I get into this, I would like to ask really quickly, how many people have or do use Rise?
I've used Rise on a couple of occasions through work. Sorry, and so have my dogs.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, a few times at work.
Okay. I know that John has shared with me he's not used it before.
I just opened it up to see what it looked like, and that's about all.
Okay. So one of the things I will do, knowing that, is I'll share with you this file for this course if you want to play around with the course before we're done. I know I shared the link with John, and I'll also share with you if you like. Would you like to share before I do that? Would you like to share and click along, or?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay.
At least give us the option of doing that.
So I'm gonna pause for a second while I grab that. And so this will let you, and what this will allow you to go in and make changes just like I would.
See, I don't see that in the chat window yet.
No, I was just grabbing the link. No, that
Oh,
one.
okay.
Okay. So let me go back to chance and let me know if you can see it now. You should be able to. Do you see it? Okay, great. Karen, I got to hit thumbs up. Thank you.
There we go. I'm clicking it now. Something's happening. Oh, there we go.
Okay. So let's jump into, like I said, I'm talking to those of us in the trenches that are actually designing and developing courses for clients, or in my case, I work very closely with SMEs who are actual physicians, clinicians, researchers. So they're not within my organization, but they're the volunteers that we are actually trying to serve in terms of providing learning opportunities for them for continuing medical education. So really quickly, what are the benefits? As we know, it's a rapid out-of-the-box development tool. And by out-of-the-box, I mean that you will be able to create a course using what they call block-based. It's a block-based tool that you're using learning blocks to build out the course. They're pre-formatted. It's a click, add, and then you go right in and you start designing them. And I'll show you that as we move forward. It also really works, in my opinion, for courses that are what I call concept or knowledge heavy. So I have a lot of courses like that working with physicians. They tend to want to present, or need to, I shouldn't say want, present a lot of research, literature that supports the practice that they're getting ready to recommend, or the mechanism for reaching a conclusion about diagnosis or treatment strategies. So if a course is really concept and knowledge heavy.
Kandice, the blocks you mentioned reminded me a lot of how WordPress is operates. So anybody who's familiar with WordPress will have a little bit of familiarity with the blocks.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, that's correct, because I've used WordPress and it's similar.
Okay. Haven't built anything in WordPress yet. Played around, but not yet. I also would say, if you lack the time to visually design a course, we've all been given projects, I think, that have pretty short windows and turnaround time frames. And Rise is very sleek. A lot of this is what I changed colors to, and I added things to present it in this format. But you have all of the resources at your fingertips in terms of making changes using HTML color codes, fonts, etc. And so it cuts a lot of the time for visual design that you may use or would have to implement for Storyline. I would also say Rise, this is a benefit, I would argue, but it's also a disadvantage. And that you have a course that has a limited need for audio or voiceover, because again, it's a block-based tool. So audio isn't synchronous within the tool. It's not like how a storyline that you have audio laid over slides. So if you have that type of course, and the final thing I would say, if it's linear in nature, it also works. And I'll show you what I mean by that. If the learning is linear, meaning that you need to know A, B, C, D, there isn't another route, then RISE really works for that. So does that make sense so far, how I get the benefits?
Well, are you able to use audio at all, and in what capacity?
Yes, you are. You can use audio, but once again, you're adding a block of audio. So the audio is going to be inserted like a block, and the learner would have to click a button and listen to the audio, unless you recorded a video. And I do have to say, I really like the way RISE works with web objects and embedded media a bit more than I do Storyline. So yes, now is it slow to process your videos? Yes, it is. But does it look great and operate well once it's uploaded? Yes. But the audio is, I would say, awkward because again, it's block-based and linear. And I can show you that too. So what are you thinking? Are you done Storyline? No, don't. Okay. So I was going to say, hold it. Because like I said, I feel that a lot of the benefits are also limitations. And the reason why I say that is because just the audio alone is a limitation. Wouldn't you agree that if you need to do a voiceover, it would not be a seamless process. Again, the blocks, you're limited to whether or not they have that block available for your use, or if it meets the needs of your course. So let's look at an actual course excerpt that really demonstrates one of the things I'll tell you that I do and don't like. So this is an example from a course I actually created about weaning anti-seizure medications. I work for the American Epilepsy Society. And this course, again, was very linear in presentation. So it was based on an advisory guideline. Doctors have a lot of practice guidelines that they have to follow. And it wasn't very straightforward. So the SMEs, we worked together to create a framework to answer the question, should this person be weaned off medication or not? So here it gets very straightforward. RISE allowed me to enter, there's a block for this, like pause before you just wean medications. We need to add this disclaimer. We know we haven't addressed every particular scenario. And again, this is our block, and I'll show you in a second blocks. But then now we're ready to meet the case. So this course was really, this section of the course was a long case that looked at someone's epilepsy experience over the lifespan. Okay, so here's Sean, he's 6. This is actually an image block that I created. I created Sean in RISE, in PowerPoint and edited, and I put the text in. And here he is, this really quick introduction to his case. And then I added this tab. Why? Because most of us now, when we go see our physicians, they're not writing notes down anymore, right? They usually have like a tablet in their hand, and they're clicking through that tablet. And I snuck a peek once and saw that they're kind of going through different tabs. So this is a block and storyline so that I could present this kind of more realistic interaction with the clinical information. Now the question is, okay, with the framework, what we have presented to you so far, what is the person's chances of remaining seizure-free? So for those of you like John who've never used RISE or don't use it frequently, here goes what happens. I'm gonna submit the answer, it's probably wrong. But look at what RISE does. And this is one of my pet peeves. What do you notice?
You had to scroll down to just see the answer depending on your screen size. It doesn't pop it up in a box where it's immediately seeable.
Well, does anybody notice one more thing?
It shows you the correct answer right away.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a bug. They may not say it that way, but that's a bug. Because if you're asking me to take it again well, what's the point? You already gave me the answer. And so now that's it. So what I always warn people is that the way I use this, though, as I see this as when I'm building the learner's confidence, I introduced this framework. I showed you how we looked at this information. Now, how would you answer that based on that? So this is what I call kind of like the show aspect. Tom Coleman writes that article, which I really love. Tell, show, practice, do. So that I know this is low stakes knowledge checks, right? So, but that is a deficiency, in my opinion, of RISE. Where if you want to put in knowledge checks, and that's what's perfect thing to what segue from what John showcased, where you can put those attempts, you can decide if you want to offer feedback, etc. This isn't allowing for that. And I tested this to be sure that I wasn't missing something. The only way to get around that is to just put in a quiz. But you don't want to have lesson quiz block, lesson quiz block. So it's very strange. So that is a deficiency. So what happened is that I went through this course, be respectful of the time, and I provided all of the context for the decision about weaning medication. How are clinicians making this decision on weaning, or how should they make, how should they come to the decision? Is it yes or no to weaning somebody's medication? So once we went through Sean's life, age 6 to 71, we went through all of that, practicing. Well, now I wanted to introduce from the subject about an expert standpoint, the more complex decision-making process. Meaning in medicine, everything is problem-based, right? Rarely does anyone go to the doctor just to hang out. So there's usually a problem and it's presented that way, and you have to make a decision. So let's together, I'm gonna click to edit. So if you're following along, this is where you see, John, how you start adding blocks. And I'm a terrible storyboarder, you guys. I've only been an e-learning designer for 2 years. And so I tend to storyboard inside my courses. I know it's not the most efficient thing I'm working on. But so I tend to go through here, playing around with blocks, looking at my content, working through my ideas or what have you. And you just add blocks. So I just want to address your earlier question, like you said, about the audio. So this is exactly how audio block will look. It would just be inserted here, just like this, for the length of the audio. So it's not synchronous, if that's the right word for it. But just like that, you would just go through and pick a block. Like, do I need a text block? Do I need a statement block? Which that's what, I think I put a quote when I I put quotes. And sometimes I use this for reflection when I want to get reflection from the learner, pause. But for the purposes of this, as you can see, you're just going through and selecting what blocks work. And as you begin to work in RISE, like I said, if you know your course, it's pretty straightforward and linear. You can get really creative with these blocks. So I'll show you what the real final course looks like as long as I stay on time. So now let's add a storyline block. So I got to that point, I said, okay, we got through all of the necessary stuff, but because of the limitations of the knowledge check and because we got really deep into a case, and so many of you who probably are, it seems much more senior than I am, you've created case scenarios and branching scenarios. And I don't care if you build an entire course and storyline, you can insert it into RISE. And that is one of the incentives of using them together. So I know some people are usually like they're either storyline people or RISE people.
Which would you suggest, pulling RISE into storyline or storyline into RISE?
So you really can only, as far as I'm aware at this point, bring storyline into RISE. I mean, you could certainly embed a link to a RISE course in the storyline, but you're really bringing the storyline. Think of it like this: I'm bringing storylines capabilities into a RISE course. The RISE course, I had a lot of things that was pretty straightforward. It worked in blocks. I threw it into to RISE. It looks great. And now I got one or two things that have more complexity, so I'm going to build those in storylines. So it still allows you to move rapidly,
Does,
in my opinion. I don't know about doing.
does storyline show up as just one block or a whole bunch of different blocks?
Okay, so I'll show you that now. So let's
Okay.
put that together. So let's imagine that I'm gonna do a new share so you can see my storyline. So let's say, so here's what happened. My SME started sending me these complicated, or maybe not complicated, but cases. Okay, so are you able to see my storyline? So they said, okay, Candice, so here's the deal. Yeah, well, now here's the case, sure. But there's really no right or wrong answer. Technically, I mean, there's a best answer. Here's what I do. But and then it just went round and round. But that's how medicine is, right? Sometimes that isn't always a one way. I mean, if it's simple, you got a headache, you take a Tylenol, sure. But if it's something more complicated like epilepsy, depending on the patient, the age, the gender, it could influence that. So once I heard that, I thought, okay, well, there's no way that this is going to be, as it's gonna, I don't want it to work in RISE. And I purposely, I'll show you all this, built this in a more complicated fashion. When I was watching John's, I thought, well, I probably could have just done all that in the quiz, but I tend to bite off more than I can chew so that I can get stronger and stronger in storyline. So that's my rationale. I'm not doing that, but here's the actual case. See, you can see how long it is. I was like, oh my God. But it provided everything that a physician would need to really make an assessment about what is happening with this patient, right? And like most medicine, or a lot of different specialties in medicine, if one is having a neurological event, if a good physician is going to say, well, I need to see your EEG. So now we want to be able to let the physician, the learner can look at this EEG and determine, oh, okay, is that enough for me to make a decision? I wanted them to be able to go back to the case and re-review it, because that's how I am. I read things many times before I answer it. And then the button up here is about what are her chances of remaining seizure-free. So you may need to look at the EEG, you may not, depending on your seniority, but it's there. You click the answer, and now you get all of these different options. So again, could I have built this in a quiz? Probably, but I liked working with it this way because using my style guide, I could make sure that I customize it, etc. So I think this is I really think this is the answer. So this is the answer, that's correct. But look at how much feedback is in this one answer. And I'll tell you something else. If it lets me replay, all of the feedback had that much text, so it really worked for me to design it myself rather than try to create it or to use the multiple. Oh, that's the justification I made for that. So now, what is one thing you noticed about this preview, though? Going to John's earlier question, do you notice anything? For a scene, this is like, imagine this is a slide, or if there was a whole scene, a storyline, what did you notice?
Well, we have some nice animation in what we're looking at now.
Mm-hmm. And
is that done in storyline or in RISE?
Oh no, that's just a low T file that I found that's perfect for this scenario.
Okay.
And I named her Dr. Muhammad. But isn't it interesting? Think about this. There's no menu. I've removed all the controls and I've taken anything out that might look like a storyline file.
Right.
So to that end, one thing you will do is you'll kind of keep playing with these to get them to the colors. So if we went back to my course in RISE, I'll like look at my buttons. I'm like, oh, all my buttons, what's the color of my buttons in RISE? Am I using this color for my buttons and my dividers? And then I go through as I'm designing this and make everything match the course and storyline, right?
Are you saying that RISE will override all of the navigation control you have in storyline?
It will accept all of the navigation that I have in storyline. Mm-hmm. But once we build this, and like you said, like once this person, like for example, this feedback option, this, I could probably, this isn't available in and Rise. But I wanted to, like, if this person got the answer wrong, they got all this feedback, but it's like, oh, maybe you should look at the EEG again if you think this is a focal epilepsy. It's not, and then try again. So once we get ready to put this into, and you will do this a few times, I'll be honest with you. But for the purposes of this, what you do is you go to publish once you've designed what you're the way you want it, and you're going to just publish. Now, what I tend to do, there are 2 actual scenes in this actual course. So what I do, you can see it says a single scene, or you could just do a single slide and only publish that. So I built this one, it's just one slide, with layers. I'm just gonna publish this slide, and I'm gonna publish it to Review 360. And then it's gonna create it. I apologize, it might be slow because.
Okay. Well, Kandice, we need to wrap up in about 5 minutes, if you can do that, please.
Perfect. So with that, I don't view it because I know what it looks like. Now let me take you back to the Rise course. Cool. So once you're done with that, we published it. It's in Review 360. You're gonna go to my block templates. I'm sorry. No, I apologize. Interactive. And when you scroll all the way down, you'll see a storyline block.
Mm-hmm.
So now you click this button. It's very simple to browse to Review 360. And you'll see all of these choices that you have. Whatever's in your Review 360, you'll look for like your storyline block. So I think I just published the one slide. Here she is. Maybe it's gonna be the so it's gonna embed. And then you can edit to decide like what size you want it. So I think for the purposes of my course, I'm gonna go medium one because they could be like me and rely on their glasses. And then the same things that we saw in storyline, it's gonna occur here. We're gonna be able to view the EEG. We could go back to the case. We could click the answer. We'll get our feedback. We'll try again. Oh, okay, do I want to go back and review the case? So your entire storyline block and that functionality comes inside of Rise. And so what you want to do, like I showed you really quickly, is make sure or attempt to design the course to look like your Rise course, meaning, and it's very simple in my mind, all I'm doing is making sure that the fonts match, the buttons, like so in all of my Rise courses, technically the button is going to show up in this color, right? So I'm like, oh shoot, my buttons don't match. Now, because these days, because I'm pretty lazy in this case, I would just go change the color of my themes to match the color, to this button. But hopefully I would have decided that sooner. But for the purposes of this, I changed the actual color of this course. So since I have like 2 minutes, I'll show you what the actual course looked like when I published it. So I'm gonna skim through how incredible, all of the other information that isn't really relevant to the blocks, but just to let you see them. I'm gonna jump ahead to the practice case studies. So you can see here that the first case is Dr. Hunt, another animation. She pops in, this is all storyline. And, going back to the questions that John asked, this is one of those questions with the doctor, like, well, it's not really a true answer, but I would go, no, she said. And then I just kind of put this free text box and pray that they don't know that whatever you type in works. Because what we really wanted to do was get to the feedback, because that's going to be feedback whether you say yes or no, because there is no right answer. And then once they continue the course, then we just keep moving through. I did embed a poll here because everybody was voting differently, the SME. So this was just a fun thing for the learner to be able to submit the poll and see. But then we just keep going through cases, and every one of these cases are cases that I built in Storyline and embedded in Rise and just edited in the player. That's what you have to know you're working from. When we remove the menu, we match the background to this. So this is just, and I'll stop sharing unless anyone has any questions, but I wrap this up to say, this is a way to maximize the benefits of each of the tools and just merge them. Oh, Joe?
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to distract you. That's why I was. I appreciate this. This was a nice. I haven't played in Rise much. I did provide a link to a virtual handbook that one of my coworkers had built for another team, completely in Rise. And so, if you guys wanted to look at that, but very cool, Candice.
Oh, thank you. So this really works, again, like I said, for a lot of the work that I do in medical education, because like I said, it's concept heavy. It's often theoretical and research driven. And then I need to incorporate some practice for the learner. And so all that content at the beginning, I save a lot of time if I could put it in Rise and then do the rest of the case studies and the interactivity, the more robust interactivity and storyline.
So what we're kind of hearing is that for better or worse, you're kind of locked into these blocks, pre-existing things, so you can crank out something very quickly that still looks quite professional, but you don't have much latitude in terms of changing things around, but you have that option to go into storyline, do something fancy, and then bring it in as a block. So thank you very much for that presentation, Candice. That was
of course
very enlightening. Any final questions or observations?
I know I just
Thanks, Candice.
Oh, you're welcome. If anyone wants to email me, I'm happy to send that file and you can kind of just tear it apart if you like. Yeah, and you can look me up. I'd like to believe I'm the only Kandice Kidd on LinkedIn, but I could be wrong. So you can find me there.
Well, let me congratulate your parents on having a good sense of whimsy to
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, my mother's proud of that name. So thank you for that.
Okay, as well as she should be. Okay. Any other questions or comments there?
No, this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Okay, well, thank you, Candice. That was very helpful. And
Great.
Karen, Joe, nice to see you. And courtesy of Jennifer and Jessica, thank you for joining us. See you all later.
Thank you for having us.